Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa. And I see we've got our usual suspects in the chat again. Lisa D. Hey, wasn't yes, good morning. Wasn't Jessica in there as well earlier on? I'm pretty sure I might have seen it. But Lisa D and Caleb, awesome to have you guys there, and I'm sure there's a few more. I'm in seventh heaven. I mean, look at that cute little thing you are holding. I gotta tell you, I'm like a kid. I want to dive through this TV screen or this YouTube screen or this computer screen, and I want to hold that little thing that you are holding. And well, let me actually welcome you to, and before I get too carried away with little Andy sitting on there. Welcome and thank you so much for joining me again. It's such a pleasure having you, and your testimony is quite phenomenal and heart-wrenching and all these things. And thank you again for the bravery that you're showing by sharing your story. So how are you doing, Joanne?
I'm actually doing very, very well. This has been so therapeutic for myself, and thank you for having me back again. And with Mr. Andy here on my lap, these little creatures are absolutely amazing. And as you can see, he likes holding hands. Yep, that's all good, isn't it? And and last time I spoke, I was quite emotional and feeling things very deeply. But as I've found, the weeks are going on, and I did say last week that it would get easier and I would be able to cope better, and my face wouldn't break out as much, or any other place wouldn't break out as much. And my face is healing. It's still got a little bit there, but not much. And I haven't broken out because, thanks to you and to this beautiful audience, I was allowed to release and let it go. And it was done in total acceptance and love. So I honour and thank everybody. And thank you, Chantelle, very much. But we're really great at this end of the world. See?
I am so happy to hear what you're saying because I think it is such an important journey. This, I always say we're living in the most beautiful times, such exciting times, such crazy times. Never in a million years would we have thought 15 or 20 years ago that, or would I have thought that I'd be sitting hosting a channel like this and listening to you guys share your testimonies. It is a great privilege to hear them, and it is a great privilege to be here. And I love what I do, and I so appreciate you guys for having the courage, because I know it's not easy, and especially when you've still got family and stuff hanging around, and with all sorts of potential possibilities that could happen. So I'm very grateful and thank you. And I mean, of course, I look at that little thing. That's why I say I could just dive through this computer screen and hug that little Andy. I mean, those ears. I've never held a kangaroo, and I mean, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I wanted to just want to grab it and kiss it, and like just never let it go. I have two cats, and I don't know how these people get cuddly cats, because I've tried to have my cats cuddly. All the cats I've ever had are not cuddly cats, and they get very mad at me when I hug them and kiss them and like do things like that. But I want to tell you, I see that little, and look at its ears. I mean, I know they can't hear me, and that's probably the best way, because I know that probably disturbing for them, what have you. But I know that we're talking to you with your Joeys in the room today as well. And what a pleasure to see those little things.
Yes, the reason we've got it set up so they don't hear your voice, that somebody else's voice is enough to frighten them, and they could get stress myopathy from it, and they could die. So
Oh no, we don't
that's
want that
why,
to happen.
no, we don't. That's why we're doing it this way. And if you were here in person, you could open that little portal right through here to Australia. That would be so different. Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna
Yeah,
find a
you
way.
better. Yes, yes. Please do.
Next thing you'll see us both sitting next to each other, me grabbing the jammy from you, fighting over who's gonna hold him.
No, no, you can hold them and I'll just chat. That'll work.
Oh, I love it. It's so adorable. But anyway, we were talking 2 weeks ago on our last show, and I mean, it was quite amazing your story you were sharing as well, and obviously very emotional to hear about what further horrors you were subjected to. Um, And I'm just so, when you talk about obviously the breakouts and stuff, I'm very well aware, the body is releasing and healing all the time. And as your frequency rises through speaking the truth, because the truth definitely does set us free. So the lower rung energies, they find the higher frequencies completely indigestible. They can't digest these beautiful, sweet tasting frequencies. They like that nasty lower rung stuff. So
Mm,
as we release it, so the body has no option but to release it as well. And very often it's going to be in a detox. And a detox is never comfortable, right? Whether it's eruptions in your face or nausea or anything like that, right? It's gonna find a way to release it. I know Caleb has recently also had some major releases through his body, and I know it's not comfortable, but I know we just all walk in this path together, and it's just beautiful to see. So, how have you been in the last 2 weeks? I mean, I know you've shared quite a bit of stuff with us so far, but how's it been for you?
it's been amazing in not as in it's amazing in the fact that I've not self-sabotaged and put an
Right.
end to it because that's one of my hardest things I'm facing is to oh my goodness, people know, oh, the stigma around it, my face breaking out, is it worth it? Should I just not do this and disappear and it wouldn't matter anyway? And then I got responses from my invitation from quite a few people. And now I think to myself, well, I had a conversation with a very beautiful lady, and I think it was 2.5 hours or 3 hours, and it was just like we knew each other forever, forever. And it was such a beautiful time to spend and talk to somebody that understands, and it's a fluent and flowing of the talking together, and it was an absolute connection. And there was others also that the same things happened, and we're coming together, and it's like, well, I had to sit down and I said to myself, Joanne, why would you want to stop that now? You know, why would you? This is all part of healing. It's okay. You don't have to be scared. Nothing bad's going to happen. It's okay. And I have to tell myself that quite often. And then every time I connect with any of these that have connected with me, with yourself, and when I'm coming up to going on this week to do this broadcast, I actually had a little bit of excitement inside my belly. And I haven't felt that in years. And I'm excited
Wow.
because I'm doing it and I'm not self-sabotaging. And my son said to me only this afternoon when I gave him a call, um, he said, Mum, good on you, you're doing it and you're not self-sabotaging. He said, you are healing. And I said, yeah, I am, aren't I? I really am. So no, I'm not going to stop it. And I will keep talking to myself in those moments. And I will be rational. And I won't let that I'm repulsive and unlovable creep back in and become my narrative. So it's always a constant. You've got to keep the mind and the thoughts and go with what's real and true, and don't go back to old tapes or dances in our lives. And we all struggle with that
Right.
constantly. So it's been
Absolutely.
a really good experience and learning. And these last 2 weeks, I've come to, in a way, my the veil's been lifted again, and I'm seeing more, and I'm seeing me more. And I'm really loving connecting with people. And these are beautiful, beautiful people. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I've done a lot of growing this last 2 weeks.
But are the people that are contacting you, are they mainly Australians?
I think no, there's a couple that aren't.
Wow. And it's,
Mm.
I'm sure the Joeys have got, look at that little figure on your lap.
He's just so relaxed. He doesn't mind cuddles.
I love it. It's the cutest thing. How old is he, by the way?
This little one would be about maybe 7, 8 months old.
Oh, wow. So he's a big baby already. Look at those
Yeah,
ears.
well, he is. But he is dependent on his mother until he is 2 years old. Yes, I'm telling them, darling. He's just saying, make sure you tell them it's 2 years I need my mum, because they still drink from mum at
Right.
foot. Well, mum will have another Joey in her pouch, and she makes 2 separate milks, one for the
Wow.
one at foot and one for the one that's like a little tiny peanut, because this little one needs more fats, the other one doesn't. It needs more immunities and antibodies, and so she adjusts her milk for 2 different Joeys at 2 different stages in life. They are
That
amazing creatures.
that is incredible. I had no idea that they actually do that. That
Yes.
they are. What is the gestation period?
Hey, now you got me. Oh,
It's okay. No,
there you got me. I should know. No,
no, it's
because no, I'm being, no, let my mind work for a moment. What happens is they mate, and then so many weeks later, they dig a big hole and they give birth to this little tiny thing about that big, and it literally crawls from her vaginal area up the belly, up the fur, and climbs into the pouch, and then attaches itself onto the the nipple, or the nipple, and it
yeah.
will secrete like a glue-like substance, and it's literally glued to it. It's got no arms, no legs, nothing. It's like this little tiny thing that just sort of wiggles up, and it never falls
And it
off.
obviously goes from there.
Yes, and it grows in the pouch. That's what I mean. I should have known that. But in a moment, when your mind goes,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
yeah, but that's what happens. Yes, and I'll look
They
up
are
for
really
sure and let you.
incredible creatures. They really are
Mm,
incredible creatures. And sadly, they are very much hunted, aren't they?
they are very much. It's really bad. Australia has not long, on the 13th of last month, had put through Parliament a bill saying that if we get a kangaroo in, and it won't be allowed, or won't be able to be released back to the wild, and it has to be kept and looked after for its life, it's automatic euthanization. So now we are fighting that. We are going up against them. We, it has rocked our world, Chantelle. They did it behind our back. They slipped it in there, and now we're all getting together and we're fighting this. How dare
Why do
they?
you think? Why do you think? Because to me, it really seems like the kangaroos are under attack. I mean, to me, they seem like quite almost like mythological creatures. It's like they have this ability to do so much, be so much, and obviously, being part of Australia's ever since. I mean, the the kangaroo and Australia are synonymous, right? It's like Australia's natural. animal, I would say. Like, you know, like the springbok is South Africa's national animal. I would
Mm.
say that the kangaroo is Australia's national animal. So why do you think the kangaroos are under such attack from the Luciferians, the Lucies?
Well, I know they're used in sex magic. That is a fact. Okay, I'm sorry, but it is true. I really am, Shanti. I'm sorry, but it is true. And a lot of them get wiped out because of growth in communities. They're taking over their habitat. You've got the farmers who like to go out and cull because they're taking over most of that bushland, clearing it for farming. And the kangaroos come in. They're actually a pest. But that and the emu are on our either flag or on our ant or coat of arms, whatever it is for Australia. They're there. That's our animals. It's the kangaroo and the emu. So no, apart from we don't know, but we are searching into this and we are getting our facts and going against them. And I'll be able to give you a more definitive answer when we've done our research and find out why.
Okay, well, I definitely want to hear about that. Okay, now, as much as what I hate, how I'm probably going to hate the answer. What do you mean they use them in sex magic?
You're going to hate the answer. They use them for sex magic. Now you can imagine, no, I don't know if you can imagine, no, excuse me for that. You get a fully grown male kangaroo who's over 7 foot, pure muscle, and you hold that and you chain it against its will. Okay, I don't think I'd say much more about that. And the females, they chain them because they're very, very strong, they're not as big. And then, bestiality, it's the way, it's real. And they kill them doing it every time. And yes, you won't like the answer at all.
I just think, seriously, I'm just glad I don't have those people's karma, because to do that to any creature
Mm.
is such a sin against God and
Oh
God's
yeah.
creation, that I'm just glad I do not have that. I mean, I know that they use a lot of the animals in bestiality. That's not a, and especially the primates. That's not a secret.
Mm.
Um, Jesse has over time explained a lot about how they, and especially what they do with our gorillas, chimpanzees, the orangutan as well, in the system. You know, goats are especially vulnerable
Oh
to
yes.
these of the night.
And
But
horses.
horses, yeah, most
Yes.
definitely. Any type of animal, really. But I
Yes.
had no idea they were using the. I mean, I do believe that they would use them in rituals, maybe.
Uh, when you're seeing the photographic and video evidence, it's more than you can take. It really is. And I know it was one lot. I don't know who it was. My brain won't recall. They did get them. They did, the police. They did get them. They stopped them, but they're not the only ones. And what they're doing is criminal. And as you said, it is an abomination against God and His natural law of things. And how could you look at this little baby? How could you? Yeah. And one of their best
Yes,
fun
it's.
things in it. Sorry,
Sorry,
Tom.
carry on.
I
Carry on.
said the worst thing I've ever seen with the emus is when they run them down with utes and things like that for sport. And yes, they do that. And I was on the back of a ute one day with other kids when they were doing it. And I was bawling my eyes out, screaming, and I ended up in the hospital that night. And half, like the top of my hand was missing. And I was basically rolled in it as well, because I didn't like it. Oh, look at her. She doesn't like this. No, I didn't like it. I didn't like going to hospital either, I can tell you, Chantelle. Although I had a week off, no abuse, that was a plus. And then the next time I got upset about them doing something to animals, I was concussed. My father picked up it wasn't a wooden cricket bat, it was a metal one. I don't know what they're called. It was not really heavy or anything, I don't know. Anyway, I got that at the side of the head. But I still complained, Chantelle. I still got angry, I still cried, I still got upset, I still stood up and fought against, and I still do. Somebody said to me one day, I'm going to send you a packet of tacks, you know those little tack nails? She said to me, I'm going to send you those. She said, then you can use them because you've got no tact. You go straight for the jugular. And it's like, well, why would you have tact about something that's that deplorable? So I got no tact, okay? Please, everybody know that. But please don't send me packets of tacks. I don't need them. I don't.
Oh, this is so disturbing. You also mentioned to me, since we're on this horrible topic, that the Aboriginal people will use the females in rituals. Can you talk about that a little bit?
A little bit. Sadly, they will take a female down, and if she's with Joey, of course, that's given to the children as a toy, until it dies, of course. So a lot of the times, there's rangers that will contact us in our organisation, and we can actually meet the rangers, and they'll bring the Joeys out if they can save them. Now, once they've killed the mother, they prepare her for their ritual. There's men's business, women's business, all sorts of things, and I don't know all the information because I'm not there. You don't know. You don't get in. You're not invited. Anyway, then they do the slaughter and burn, and then they eat. But the whole time they're doing this for their rituals or their whatever they do, that poor little Joey is watching the whole thing. Now, that's what I can't handle, because that little Joey never forgets.
Yeah.
Ever. Now, an example of that is, I usually have the Joey up to about 18 months at the most. That's how long it takes to raise it, so it's independent. And then we'll do the release, like we transition to somewhere else and mob them up with other kangaroos, so they're all pals and best friends, and we slowly introduce them to the wild mob, and they integrate. And then I'll go away and I'll come back a couple of weeks later and do what we call a welfare check on them. And then it gets longer and longer between each time. And I can go 2 years, 3 years sometimes, and I'll do a welfare check on ones that we've released. And you know, those joeys, well, they're not joeys anymore. That was a Freudian slip. Those beautiful creatures, one particular one, I'll use her as an example, little Tamara. I was actually standing amongst this mob, and she came up and with her little hand grabbed mine, and she had a little joey of her own in the pouch. But she never forgot me, nor did Nathaniel, Todd, Sandy, Ozzy, any of them, because they never forget you.
No, they're
So
amazing creatures.
they are, but
Yeah.
they never forget what they saw and see what happens to their mother. That's trauma. That is horrific trauma.
Sure
That,
is.
and then being passed and being a toy for children, and then at night just left out with a dog in a kennel. That I can't handle, and that's what I fight against. Those joeys have got to be saved. They really have to be saved because their trauma, like this little one in my arms, today there was 3 ladies here dealing with horses because we help out and rescue other animals, and they were here with their horses that are here. And they walked over, they wanted to see the boys, they were out in the outside pen, and just them going near the pen, this little one shook. You know how you shake from the inside out? That's what he did, and they weren't even that close. That's trauma. So
Do we know
they say then what happened.
to his mama?
Yes, his mama was hit by a vehicle and he was thrown from the pouch. And then he went back to his mother and stayed with her until rescuers got there. Because they won't leave their mother. They will not leave their mother. But saying that, they won't leave their mother for maybe up to 2 days. But if you don't grab the joey straight away at a certain age, because the big male after that 2 days or within that 2 days will connect with that joey and then take that joey back to the mob. Now you tell me they're mindless animals. No, they've got a social network, they've got family network, they've got the mob. It's all in, they look after each other. This idea that animals, you can't talk to them, you can't communicate, you can't connect. It's pure and utter rubbish and lies. Because that male waited long enough just on the fringes for that joey to realise mum isn't coming back, mum's there and she's never going to wake up. And then when that joey's ready, that male comes in and takes the joey back to the mob. And then another mother will feed that joey.
And she'll take care of him.
Yes. Yes. And they
I want to
are.
ask you, like those the joeys that are left that are given for toys to the kids. What happens when they grow up? Are they also used for ritual, even though they are pets?
They don't grow up, Chantelle.
What do you mean?
Unless we rescue them, they don't last too many days or at all.
Is that because they get taken out or they decide just to leave?
No, it's because they don't get the nutrients they need. They're in shock
Right.
from
Yeah.
losing mum and seeing all that. They die from stress myopathy and being pulled around and held by an arm and swung as they run along and have fun. It's pure stress. And they don't
And because
give them
and
bottles.
because they belong to such a social network, they're obviously not getting the socialization that they need.
No, no. And they're in trauma anyway. And they should be put into a dark pouch and only disturbed by one person to feed, toilet them, and give them love and help them get over that bit of trauma and start to attach to the human. And I've got to put Andy down. He's getting a bit antsy. He wants to get down and have food because Pete's having some food, you see. So he's going
Okay.
to say, for now, I'll see you a bit later. I'm
Bye-bye.
just going to put him down.
Okay. Wow.
And this is, as I do this, I'll show you. It's a big pouch made, and that's like being in his mum's pouch. And when we hang him in a bag, it doesn't sound right, but believe me, it doesn't hurt them. It's just like being in mum's pouch.
So you
And that's
literally make
safety.
pouches and you put them in there, and they, because I've seen that actually. There've been YouTube reels and stuff in the past where you see
Mm,
these guys taking care of them.
yes,
Oh,
that's right. There you go, baby. Yay. Woohoo. Clever boy. I might invite Pete in a minute, but right now he's got his nose in the feed bowl, and all I can hear is crunch, 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 crunch. Because they
what do they
love
eat?
nibbling. It's a Skippy mix that there was a group of carers got together and worked with a stock feed and one of our local stock feed in Pinjarra. Ivan, his name is, and it was formulated for everything they would need. It's got all different grains, sunflowers, seeds. It's got so much. I'll write it all down so I can share it with you for our next broadcast, and they'll give you a better idea then, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, so cool. Wow.
They eat hay,
Well,
they eat grass, they eat fruits, veggies, they love it all.
oh, wow. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate seeing little Andy there. And sure, quite disturbing though, to hear
Yeah,
what they go through as well. Very, very disturbing.
very.
There's who was it? Gandhi actually that said we can judge a nation on how it treats its animals. And I want to tell you that I think this planet is a poor example of how we treat our animals. And we're also just hearing about the snakes. I mean, I love snakes, I got to tell you. I love snakes. And I know snakes are one of the most highly abused creatures on this planet. We
Yeah.
tend to have this kill culture. If we're scared of it or if we
Kill
don't
it.
understand, we just want to kill it.
Mm-hmm.
Like rats. I mean, do you know that? I mean, rats are like the rodents, but yet when you look, and part of our history in Africa and Mozambique with those horrific wars um, that were going on there and all the landmines that were planted, because after the
Oh,
Mozambique war, these guys were just planting landmines and kids were getting blown up walking over these landmines, and they'd have
oh,
legs and limbs and all sorts of things blown up. Do you know what animal they brought in to sniff out the landmines? It was rats. Rats were showing. So rats have in fact saved countless lives. And yet we
wow.
do not, human lives that is, and yet we do not even have that much iota of respect for their lives. Isn't that crazy?
Isn't it?
Every culture has its part to play. And as long as we don't understand that, we're going to be caught in this matrix, going around and around and around. I always say, if we want them, the Lucy's, to stop
Mm.
eating our kids, we've got to stop eating animals and their kids. It's a mirror universe we live in. And as long as we continue to have no regard for the lives of other sentient beings and other life forms. It doesn't even have to be a sentient being, just another life form. We're gonna stay caught up in this matrix. And that's unfortunately the way I see things. And I'm pretty sure I'm right with that. We can't
Well,
just endlessly
I
go
agree.
on and do things to others and not expect that there's some type of ramification, right? I mean, I have to say, this never ever makes me popular, but of course, living in South Africa, we have tons of trophy hunters coming here trying to take down our big five. And I tell you, my favorite thing is hunting accidents.
Yeah. Ooh.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not even gonna lie. It sure is. When I hear about these guys flipping, oh, it's disgusting. You must hear what they do to our big cats. You must see how and especially the leopard. You must see
Mm.
because the leopard is one of the most highly sought after animal for hunting, but it only moves at night and it should only have a 1% success rate because by law, we're not allowed to do night hunting. But of course, these professional hunters have no regard for that when they've got the Americans and the Russians and mainly Spanish clients who come here and want to take down our big five, of course, leopard being one of them. They are, I won't even go there. It's just disgusting. There's a big court case going on now about that because it's now seen as, what's the word, organized crime to do
Oh,
that. And they
wow.
hunt them at night with dogs. Um, that's just one way. It's just insane. Anyway, wow, I just think that there's a lot more than dogs, but I won't go there.
Well, probably, yeah, very likely. Chantel, I knew a man, sadly he's passed now. He's he's from South Africa, and he was one of the ones some years back that went out stopping poachers.
Yeah.
So he's told us a lot, and he was a mighty big man, a beautiful man, but it broke his heart every time he spoke about it,
Yeah.
and he worked very hard to have it reduced before he left the country. And he was going to take me back, but he sadly died, just to see the country. He only died a couple of months ago. And he wrote a book because his family are from there. And I'll actually send you the book
I would
to
love.
read. I think you
I would
would
love.
find that rather beautiful. And it would, you may even know him or have heard of him.
Can you say his name or not?
Yes, his first name was Nigel, and no, I can't remember his second name right now. See,
It's all
there's
good.
that blank again. I can remember that.
All good.
But anyway, I'm sending you the book, so expect it. I think
Yeah.
you'll enjoy it. Mm. So yeah, I'm
It's, I
not.
don't know if you guys have ever heard of the elephant whisperer. Also a man who, there was a herd of elephant that was going to be culled because
Yeah,
they were breaking down the fences. But that's because a trophy hunter had taken down the matriarch. So they didn't
yeah.
have a leader. And eventually they asked this one guy if he would do it. I've got the book, it's just absolutely beautiful. And he then got them in, but they kept breaking down the fences. And of course, all the
Mm,
neighbors just want to take them down. And of course, this is a trophy hunter's wet dream, excuse my crass
yeah.
language, but to take down an elephant, right? It is the most horrific thing to witness. It is the most
Mm,
horrific thing to witness because you have to, if you're going to take an elephant down in one shot, you have to shoot it in a certain way and your target has to be completely on. Otherwise, it takes a few shots. And to see this majestic creature come down, and it is just horrific. Anyway, and through lots of love, he's a communicator, an animal communicator. He then kept the herd there, and they then stayed within the confines. When he died, because then they went off and did their thing. When he died, they all came. They
okay.
all came to say goodbye to him. It was the
I think
most
that's in Nigel's book. I do
right. It's the
believe he
most
told me that. Yep.
yeah, the most incredible stories about that.
Yeah, because,
Anyway, it
yeah,
really mm,
that's precious,
uh
isn't it?
numbers in Africa stop the purchase. Don't agree. Look, I mean, some of the zoos, Linda, I mean, I'm not a fan of the zoos either, because when you look at what these guys do and how they traffic our animals from Africa illegally into zoos all over the world, that should never be there. That's the issue I have. You got your baby again.
No,
Anyway,
this
well,
one is Pete.
oh, hello, Pete.
This is little Pete. Oh, get your hand out, baby. Say hi.
Oh my goodness, I'm so in love. I'm just like, oh man. I just adore these little things. Wow, look at the little feet.
Oh, yeah. And this
Yeah.
this little Pete, he's got a little tiny toe on the side, and he's a toe sucker. You know how some children suck the thumb? This one sucks its toe. I will send you a photo. They are so adorable.
I would love
But
to.
yes,
God,
I think
on
you'll love that book because yeah, Nigel, that's in there, and a few other times. Yeah, he had to get away from a rhino, and he broke his something to do with his lower leg, and he kept running on it because he would have been dead otherwise. And it took him
yeah.
months and months to get over it. So no, but I can. What they do to all of the animals and how they like. We've got lions, tigers, all your different ones here, and they're behind glass in these enclosures, behind glass,
It's
and
it's criminal. It's
it
absolutely
is.
criminal. I really think it's criminal.
I mean,
Anyway,
somehow it's got to be stopped.
yeah, I agree. It
Right.
has to be stopped. It has to be. It's just it's insane, and that's
Mm.
and then it's condoned because it's conservation, and I'm going screw that. There's nothing conservation about that, you know. Since when are we called to play God with the animals? We're not. We
No,
take
well,
over. And if you look at especially elephant, you know, they have a route that they travel for their
yes.
lives, basically. And then what happens is we then build lodges on the route that they travel, right? And then, of
Mm-hmm.
course, they're going to come back there and crunch your stuff. But then, of course, they get taken out because now they're a problem animal. Hello, beautiful.
um, with the elephants, they literally, the matriarch, correct me if I'm wrong, but the route they take or the route they take, it's in there, and it's in there, and they know it, and it's like a programming within them. They know it within
Yeah,
them,
totally.
and
I mean, elephants are highly sentient, and it's the females. And, you know, it's interesting in nature. Most of the time, it's the females that lead the herds. I
mm,
mean, the males will have different roles, but it's usually the females that are that take on the matriarchal um, role, because generally females in the animal kingdom, so it says, are better leaders, right? So the males are the better hunter gatherers.
yeah,
So but very like with the lion, you'll find that the females are usually the huntresses, like they'll go
they
out and
are.
hunt.
Mm,
Yeah. And it's usually
that's
also
true.
females. It's usually females. And a hyena, I mean, people, if you look at a hyena, people think a hyena is so ugly. And yes, it is a hideous looking creature if you look at it in that way. But man, they are incredible. They are, if you understand the hyena and how they work and everything, they are just unfreaking believable. But
I love
anyway,
the
we will,
sound they make.
yeah.
I
They,
do. It's
I worked with a lot of them in rehabilitation, and I worked
oh
with the
wow,
parents as well. I mean, they are just amazing. They really, really are. It's amazing to see them, and
wow.
of course, all of them, and the big cats. Of course, I love the big cats. But yeah, anyway.
Well, I'm all for you opening that portal so I can actually come and see them maybe.
I was gonna say you gotta come here. I think we did a show with Caleb the other night on portals, and we can decide where the portal's gotta open and where it's gotta close, right?
Yes. We'll listen to Caleb. We'll listen and we'll do everything that he
I,
says. We'll be good girls.
I
Yeah.
think I think God will be good with us opening a portal for this.
Yes. Just for
For sure.
us. Absolutely. Oh, this is beautiful. You're
Anyway, so
beautiful.
yeah, I want to just chat as well, and I'm just like so amazed at your story, and I know everyone is. I think, in fact, Lisa D was saying in the beginning of the show, you're becoming one of her favorite guests, and I think your story is amazing. I think you're a lot of people's favorite guest or of their favorite guests as well. So I'd
Thank
like to know,
you.
part of the thing that you've obviously learned how to do over the years as well since you've been in your rehabilitation. And I love the fact that you've projected that onto the animals as well. You understand the animals so well. And and God never makes mistakes. And I know in my heart of hearts that when someone like you goes into the atrocious situation that you were in as a kid, where you had no control, you had no choice, you had no nothing basically, and God has spared you through those atrocities, it's for reasons like this, because you would understand and have compassion, and people like you that have been through these things, basically have so much understanding and so much compassion for other sentient beings and other human beings and stuff like that as well. And I think part of that is definitely, it doesn't make it easy, not by a long shot. I've no qualms around that. It's never an easy thing. Um, so I love the fact that you're using your voice. And I'd love, because what you were saying as well, understanding your human rights after abuse. Talk to us a
Mm.
little bit about that, as to how that came about for you, to really understand your rights as a human being, because I think so many people, after they've experienced that, have a really rough time integrating fully and confidently into society again.
That's absolutely true. Excuse me. I literally found out me had human rights. I didn't know until about 2006 that there was anything called Universal Human Declaration of Human Rights. And I thought I was doing a course at TAFE. It was called WOW, W-O-W, which was Women of Wellness. And I was doing this to learn and to help me grow and learn assertiveness, learn to believe that I am not just repulsive and all that. And I remember I read through these because we were given a slice of paper that had, this is the Universal Bill of Rights. And I laughed, and the lecturer looked at me and goes, "Why are you laughing?" I said, "I've never heard of this. What is it? What do you mean? We've got rights." She goes, "Yes." I said, "Well, how come I didn't know about it?" And I had no concept, no idea, nothing that this existed. And I had 2 children in school, not that old yet, but it floored me. It was like someone had kept this secret all my life from me. So I hope you don't mind too much, but I have taken some notes. I've actually done some more. I've really got into this. But, I mean, some of these rights were quite, well, they are all very profound. First of all, I have, well, any of us, I'm going to refer to me because this is how, when I was reading it and how it affected me. I have the right to equality. Equality, what does that mean? So Joanne then went to a dictionary and looked up what equality meant. And it was, my only thing is, wow. Is that real? Okay. Sit with it for a minute, Joe, because that's there written. Then you got the freedom from discrimination. You're allowed to be who you are, like what you want, without being discriminated on. Be whatever religion, be whatever culture. Do the dishes upside down, and you were allowed to. And I looked up discrimination, and I wrote these meanings down because I needed to, because I'd forget. Then the right to life, liberty, personal security. What? Security? What the heck is security? What is the definition of security in the dictionary? So again, I went and had a look, wrote it down. So I went through every single, there's 30, by the way, 33 of them in this declaration. Now, freedom from torture and degrading treatment.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. And it was like, no, it wasn't like, it was, okay, now I know it's all false. None of it is real. I lived torture. I was degraded all the time. So I still wrote down the meanings. The right to recognition as a person before the law. I'm a real person. I'm a real person. Okay. Freedom from arbitrary arrest and exile. Okay, we understand what that means in the law side of things, but Joanne being Joanne, well, I was under arbitrary arrest and I was exiled from the real world for 18 years and then plus. Okay. Then the next one that really got me, right to free movement in and out of the country. Okay, we're going back to the universal, but Joanne being Joanne brought it right back to, that means I can go from this town to that, and I've got that right. I'm over 18, or over 17 because I have my license. I'm allowed to do those sort of things. I don't have to have nails put in my windows and French doors so that I'm locked in anymore. And I can't open them. That was all wrong, Shanti. It was wrong. Because I had rights. And it was, woohoo, I've got rights. Now what do I do with them?
Right. I was actually
Yeah.
I want to just chime in, yeah, because, that is something that I think the average person who hasn't experienced what you have takes for granted, right? We take it for granted that we have a right to security. We have a right to move around. We have a right to fair treatment. We have a right to not being degraded or abused and violated, you know. And it's exactly what
Yeah.
you're saying now. So when you were reading all of these things, and when it sort of dawned on you that your rights you've been stripped of your basic human rights from by the people that were nearest and dearest to you from when you were knee high, right? How does it feel? I mean, I'm interested to know, there must be quite an emotional turning around. I mean, I can imagine myself. I would have probably been so angry. I would have burnt the house down just about. Um,
It's
if
illegal.
I'd,
What can a girl do?
I would have justified it. But it's like, there must be quite an emotional reaction, knee-jerk reaction coming from you when you realize all these things, and especially the people that are nearest and dearest to you that have been inflicting these disgusting actions upon you, and doing so in the most deceptive and disgusting way. So what is your as a human being, how did you wrap your head around that emotionally, to sort of realize the deception and the betrayal, because that is such a big thing there? And secondly, how did you then start turning that around to realize that you are able to now do the things that is saying all those definitions are, but really you probably have had no experience in moving around. You've had no experience in expressing yourself freely. You've had no experience in saying no and having that respected, right?
hmm Well, it was devastating. It was, when you give birth and you've got that feeling after your water's broken and you feel from your belly button down, you feel like it could all just drop out. But just before you give birth, that's what it was like when it dawned on me exactly what I had really lived. That's when I really had to register. And what I, not that I could, not could have lived, or should have, because I don't believe I should have or could have. Again, it comes back to I've been given a path to be where I am
Right,
today.
right,
But it devastated me. It devastated me. I got very, very angry. I do believe I smashed a lot of things that they'd ever given me. I relished in smashing every bit, and I know in those moments I was very vocal and got it out to the point where I was at times screaming at them and seeing them in my mind's eye. A lot of times when that was happening and the kids might have been around, Tony was wonderful, he'd just say to the kids, no, we're going out, we're going off to do this, we're going to let mum have some time. And he'd take them away, so he always kept them safe and allowed me to do that expression, because I wasn't self-harming or anything like that. I was just smashing everything they gave me. And my hatred, it was a loathing. To wrap my head around it? No. Why should I wrap my head around what they've created?
right.
It wasn't hate. It was loathing. It was hatred. It was not understanding. It was the bitterness and the hate I had for my mother, because she chose to stay in that and was an enabler and a part of. It's a good thing we didn't live close. It was a very good thing we did not live close. And we weren't in communication, because I cut my family off until the children were a lot older because I wouldn't let them near them. And they always had the fear if they were in the area, the police knew, other people knew. And there were many times I had to go and grab my children and keep them safe because they would grab them and they had threatened. So, to get my hand around it, to understand it, I know I was hospitalised 3 times after I learnt the Bill of Rights, looking into, I was under a psychiatrist and he was helping me through it. I shared everything, but I was hospitalised because I disassociate, but I disassociate to the point where one day my son hurt himself. He was in the sandpit and he was crying out, "Mum." And I was sitting there and Tony came up to me and he said to me, "Joey, Daniel is calling out to you. He's hurt himself." And I looked at him so blank and I said, "Who, Gary?" And that's my brother, who I remember being in the sandpit, crying and bleeding. I disassociated. I didn't even register my son. To wrap your
Do
head
you
around it,
do you think that that could have been, and I would imagine as well, that would be part of the side effects, if you want to call it that, with your own kids? Because I would imagine as a little kid, when you were in that scenario and your siblings were being hurt and abused, there was such a sense of powerlessness from you, the powerlessness that you were not able to do anything to change the situation or to make it better for them, right? So I would imagine that would automatically then be at the time you would disassociate, right?
because it's
So
a trigger.
maybe yes. So maybe when you're hearing your son in distress like that, it would be an automatic disassociation because a part of you that was still unhealed at the time wouldn't have understood you in a position now that you can gather your wits about you and you do have the power to help him and sort him out and figure out what he needs, right? Do you think that that could be part of it?
Very much so. Very much so, Chantelle. And because with the learning of these Bill of Rights and 30 of them, it literally took me right back to childhood and staying in the present and the feelings overwhelming and getting your head around it. It took me literally years. But yes, absolutely what you said is true. And when Daniel did start getting upset and he hurt himself because he fell over, it straight away triggered and I was back there and that was Gary. And I was waiting for Mum to come out and
Right.
pick him up. I really was,
Yeah. Right.
if that makes sense. So
Makes sense.
everything then, while I wasn't equipped to cope with any of it. I didn't have any tools in my toolbox. You know, it was the beginning of that part of my journey. So dissociation was my safety in so
And
many ways.
I want to just say that to Violet in the chat here, who says disassociation isn't it a spirit or spirit's influence? I want to just say something about this as well.
Mm,
Disassociation is really the mind's way of protecting you as a little kid from very severe abuse and trauma. So it has nothing to do with negative entities or what have you. Yes, have they come in and done stuff in many instances? Yes, but we cannot put everything down to that. Disassociation is the mind's way of protecting you as a
mm,
child from severe trauma and abuse. Because many times, for example, a father would rape the child, when the child, they would trauma bond with the father from birth, right? And then at 18 months old, this father would then rape, R-A-P-E, the child for the first time. And the shock and the trauma that the child goes through immediately is able to then disassociate. So it's a psychological issue. It's not a spiritual issue. It's a psychological issue. And through healing and through loving and through coming together and trusting, learning how to trust again, learning how to love again, learning that there are people in your environment that love you, that care for you, that will hold your hand through this experience again, is what it is. So we cannot put everything down to that. I'm not saying there aren't situations like that, but disassociation really is the mind's way of protecting a child from trauma. And if that child has had repeated trauma time and 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 time again, naturally it's going to be the way that it escapes, right, is through disassociation. So obviously when you go into adulthood and you have your own child, etc., there would be certain things that the memory of that is still in your body at cellular level, and then certain things will still trigger that. And that is why this is not a spiritual issue we're talking about. It's an emotional, mental, physical issue that takes lots of love and lots of human affection to heal. It's not just, well, we're repenting or whatever it is, and we're laying it at the cross of the Jesus, and now it's all fixed up. It's about really going through the motions of understanding and learning how to trust again, learning how to love again, learning how to heal the wounds that have been inflicted. That's what's called taking responsibility. So many of these people, it's not your fault how you cannot be responsible for how your abusers abused you. You can never be responsible for that. But when we get older, we then learn how to take responsibility for our lives, and that's a beautiful thing, because then it says we know now that we have what it takes to heal ourselves and to change that. That's what happens when we take responsibility. And I'm just looking at Kerry, the child's brain splits and holds the memory, exactly, until as an adult you start to remember. And in most cases, you remember as that child, exactly. And then through beautiful therapy and beautiful, as I said, love and trust with those around you, you can then start integrating and then living a life. And look at you. I mean, and Kerry is another one that's went through those horrific experiences. And I mean, and what's beautiful about you guys is that you give back. It's like you're paying all of that, and you're giving back to the people, the children, the animals around you. And that means you've healed. Does it ever mean you forget the past? I doubt it. I very much doubt it. But you can view it in a different way that does not disassociate you. I don't know. You're welcome to correct me if I'm wrong there.
No, you're quite right. But see, another point of disassociation is when you are being RAPED, okay, the brain is, again, it's so powerful. That experience becomes its own event. So when it's over, because when it's over, you see, you have to go back to being that child, whatever age you are, and everything's fine, nothing's just happened. And it's got to be like that instantly, or else you get beat. So what the brain has the power to do is take that, lock it away, keep it away so normal function can happen on a day-to-day basis. But every time you get abused again, that's what opens up.
Exactly.
And that's the only way you can cope. It's got nothing to do with spiritual anything. It's coping. It's the brain, you know, we're given this so we could cope and we wouldn't just curl up and die. And
Exactly.
and as we grow older and we get triggered and we go into these memories, we've got two choices because we're adults now. We can either go into it and become that victim and live victimology, and that destroys families, it destroys everything. Or you look at it, you grieve it, you then release it, and yeah, it's yucky, it's discomfort, it is throwing up, it
It's
is everything.
lancing that boil and squeezing the gunk out. And that is never an easy or a pleasant task. And you might have to do it 3 or 4, 10 times before that little sack is out, right?
That's
But with
right.
yeah, but it really is something that is a process. And Linda, you're saying as well, laying it at the cross was all I ever got as therapy. And you know what? And again, please, I'm not it's not condemning Christians or Christianity, but
Gosh,
that
no.
is what and I see that a lot on this channel, is that people say, well, just hand it over and lay it at the cross. That's step one. And what does that in essence mean? It means that there's several steps to healing. It means that, okay, you can let it go. You can let it go and you can let God. But you know, God helps those who help themselves. So once you've let it go, it really just, it's the symbol of the first step towards healing. So when you then have let that go, it's up to you. And this is where the responsibility comes in. It's up to you then to do the work that releases that pain, that then heals the pain, that then looks, you know, that's obviously what we often call is the shadow work we do, right? Is to look at the pain and the trauma, to bring it to God and to bring it into the light. Every person's pain and trauma is different. And then to do the actual work, take the steps that healing requires, like anything else. Because if all we had to do was lay it at the cross of Jesus, why is every Christian not walking on water? That's the question I have. It
And
doesn't
another
just need,
point, if I may
yes,
interject, I
sorry, I
think
agree,
another
Caleb said,
very, yeah, go on.
sorry, I'm just saying on that point, Caleb is saying, step two is walking the faith out. Exactly. Now you've got to apply that faith. You've got to apply the teachings of Christ. You've got to apply the teachings of the wise masters. You have to apply it. And that's like going into every little cell and opening it up and seeing what is in those little cells and changing what is necessary. Each person is individual and unique. And each person is going to have a unique and an individual experience. So I just want to say that because I think there's a lot of religious people who have a misunderstanding of what it is to heal. I've healed myself from breast cancer. I've been bitten by a black widow spider at the same time. By rights, I should be dead. But I knew, it's like spiritually, I knew what I needed to do. The first step is that spiritual, as the Christians will call it, laying it at the cross. Cool. I knew what I needed to do, but I also understood what I had to do in order to heal my own body. I had to take responsibility for why I gave myself those illnesses, because that was my own mindset. I know in your guys' instance it's different, because that stuff is put upon you where you have no authority when you are a child or a baby. In my case, it was different. I had to look at why I put myself in harm's way, why I allowed myself to become ill. My perceptions, my misconceptions about things made me ill. And when I changed that around, I was able to heal myself. And that's, every person is different.
That's
It
correct.
is a tough
But,
and lonely part. Anyway, sorry, Joanne, I didn't mean
no,
to
that's all right.
interrupt you.
No, it's perfectly fine. But I want to explain something now. Explain this. When you've been abused that way and you've been brought up in so-called religions and it's not been a very good experience, do you think you trust that God? Come on. You
Yeah.
can't lay it at the cross, can you? If you
No.
don't trust it, you've got to learn to trust even in him again and see, and the
Exactly.
perspective change. So until that, and you've got that relationship, you can't just lay it at the cross, because one, you don't trust that God. There was many a time I was very angry. Why? What the heck did I ever do to deserve this? As a little 6-year-old after being RAPED. So first, you got to learn there are something other than these sort of people, and that there's worth something to trust, to
Right.
relearn and to relook at. So yeah, that comes, but you're lucky you had that relationships and you believed that, and you didn't
Right.
go through it to that extent maybe. But you still, as Chantelle, you were saying, it's got to come back to that trust and knowing that there is love. Where I grew up, God wasn't love. He loved those abusers. That's why they could do it. That's what we were always told. So first you've got to come back to God and get through, and disassociation is nothing to do with evil or spirits. It is one coping mechanism. It's a
Exactly.
survival instinct put there by our loving Father to help us come back to Him. So
Exactly. And
first you must do that.
I do believe that that comes. You learn how to trust when you've managed to find human beings in whichever way it might be that show you. I mean, I know in your case you had an amazing husband, and it could
Mm,
not have been easy for him. You had beautiful kids, so
yes.
it's really about really. It was really about learning that there are good humans in this world, learning that there are good people, that not everyone is evil and satanic. And when you've had that your whole life, I can imagine that is not an easy fate to actually accomplish. So it's a little step, it's one tiny step, 1 millimeter a day, bite sized chunks before you realize, and through them you'll meet others who are good. And I can imagine it's not, it takes time to learn how to trust. It takes time to, I mean, I know just from relationships, being deceived in relationships, right?
Yeah, yeah, look at
How long,
that,
how
yeah.
long it takes to learn how to trust again, right? I
Mm,
mean, that's just, it sounds so superficial when I say that,
it's
but I
not.
know, I know how hard that can be to learn how to trust again after someone you've loved has deceived you and betrayed your trust. But so now imagine that when you're a little kid and your parents,
Exactly.
your family, and
Mm,
all, and as you say, all, and God loves them because God is
yep,
supporting them to abuse you. You've got to,
that's
it's like
right.
that backwards bicycle, and Caleb always talks about riding the backwards bicycle. You've got to learn how to get off that bicycle and absolutely rewire the or rebuild the bicycle again, and then you learn a whole different way of doing things. So this nonsense that it's just, laying it down at the cross. And I'm not blaspheming Jesus or God. I'm
Oh gosh,
actually
no.
trying to tell people, I think you've got the bull by the balls here when you think that is all it is. It's not all it is. It's a process of getting there. It takes a lot of love, a lot of patience, a lot of understanding to do this type of healing. I mean, I've been a healer for many years, and I've had some severe cases that I've worked with. And I've also had some cases that are not that severe. But people are, they pretty much deal with the capacity that they can deal with, right?
Yes.
So I've seen like how, the process it takes for people to actually learn how to love and how to trust again. And a child, kids are beautiful, they're resilient,
Yeah.
um, and they will, it's like your dog will always come back no matter how many times you beat that dog. but eventually it's going to be cowering down. And is that what you want for yourself? No. You learn how to become strong again. And that's a beautiful thing. Hello, beautiful.
This is Andy. He decided he needed to come up.
Andy,
Yeah, and you know, in the scriptures it says there's a time for pain, a time for joy, a time for sorrow, a time for giving, a time for healing. Now, if there's a time for everything, and we're not meant to judge, that's, you don't look at somebody and say, well, that's all you need to do, because you're not that person. And again, how does God look down when you do that?
right.
You know, you got to look at, there's a time for everything. Jesus, there were times when he, well, we'll say the money collectors, we know what else was happening, and he turned those tables and he was furious. So there's a time for anger and let it out when it's
Absolutely.
righteous. So
Righteous action, for sure.
it is, you know, so everybody has their own path, and nobody says this is all you have to do. It worked for you, and that is such a precious thing. It really is precious, and you hold on to that with both your hands and pray for those that are still getting there.
Exactly.
The end.
Wow.
But no, it's nothing to do with demonics. And I don't disassociate like I used to. I've worked very hard over these years. And I don't self-sabotage and say, no, somebody's, you know, or this is going to happen, or that's going to happen, or there's going to be retaliation if anyone knows too much around where these people still are and still operating. But see, that comes down to the trust again, because I believe I am protected and I can trust that I can do this, because this is what I have been asked to do, because it's
Yeah,
for his purpose.
absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely. I fully agree with you there.
mm.
Andy, you're so cute.
I think it's just a real sit around, this one, isn't he? And we just love his loves, this one. Mm,
Yes, they are so cute.
mm.
Anyway, wow. Okay,
So,
guys. Well, I think we've
oh,
had a beautiful show for today, and we're certainly going to continue this in a fortnight from now with more from Joanne and more of your beautiful, well, not all the stories are so beautiful, but your healing stories, because I think they are healing for everyone to hear what you've come through and where you're at now. Very inspirational. And again, I say thank you so much for sharing and the courage it takes for you, Joanne, really, and all your beautiful little munchkins with their big fluffy
mm-hmm.
ears.
And thank you to all those that are listening and watching. And your best friend is, I know this, your best friend is our Heavenly Father. So, mm,
Absolutely. So true. So true about that. And I want to just say thank you to everyone in the chat for joining us. And even those of you not in the chat, thank you for joining us as well. Much appreciate you. And yes, Violet is little. How old is Andy, Joanne?
I say about 7 months, I think. Yep. Oh,
7 months old.
yes.
You
Yeah.
little munchkin.
Remember, they start off this big.
Yeah.
I kid you not. Yes.
Oh,
Thank
so
you.
amazing. Okay, guys. And I want to appreciate, and I want to just again say thank you so much. Appreciate you all. Got a busy day today. I'm on with Catherine Edwards at 3:30. We're talking about the four agreements and the Great Awakening. Is how to, again, well, how do we apply that? For those of you who watched the show last week with her, we started that. It was a really cool show on her channel. We're doing um, part two on my channel today. So 3:30 on Solutions with Shanti. That's the second channel that I have as well. And then I have awesome John Perkins later on at 6 p.m. my time. And I've been chatting a bit about him. He's the American ex-chief economist from the 70s, actually. And he wrote a book called The Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which is on the New York best-selling list for many years, where they literally, the economists were sent out to various third world countries to pretty much put the governments into debt and usurp their resources. And of course, he got a touch of conscience and blew the whistle. He was in South Africa a number of years ago, being interviewed by some of our top channels here, which was the first time I heard about him. But I couldn't believe that he agreed to come onto my show as well. So I'll be talking to him at 6 p.m. today. So please join me for that. Then 8 p.m. my time, I'm with Leo Zagami again, and we're talking about the bird flu pandemic. I mean, police. The new pandemic is bird flu. I mean, these poor animals. Can you believe it? Always the animals, right? Uh, that have to take the brunt of this. So the new pandemic, that's the bird flu pandemic with Leo Zagami at 8 o'clock tonight. And a surprise guest on tomorrow, the beautiful Kathy O'Brien again. I just love Kathy O'Brien. She'll be on with me at, I do believe it's going to be either 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock my time tomorrow. I think it's 6 o'clock my time tomorrow, Saturday. I'll be interviewing Kathy O'Brien again. So please join me, busy week. And then, of course, Caleb on Sunday again. We missed him yesterday. And then for those of you who are on Patreon, we've got Jessie's Book Club on Patreon on Sunday again. We're actually doing her new book, which is I'm really looking forward to as well. Thank you, everybody. And I look forward to seeing you in the next couple of hours, days, whatever, as well. Joanne, is there anything you want to maybe just say in closing as well?
I'd like to say thank you to every single soul, and I also would like to say from Mr. Andy, bye. I'll see you next time. Thank you.
I'm finished. I mean, my heart is just buzzing when I see those little things. I can't just wait to touch it and hug it and kiss it and look at it. I mean, that little face is too much for me.
Thank you. Thank you to
Okay, everybody.
everybody.
Please, Jan, don't leave. I want to chat to you
Yes,
off this. Hang in there, okay?
I
God
will.
bless you, everybody. Thank you so much, and I wish you a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful weekend. And yeah, health, wealth, and all the abundance of good things you could possibly imagine. We'll catch you later.